One more clarification from OP: if she told me she loved someone else, I'd be devastated. If she told me she was talking to another man on the phone for hours a week and laughing and joking, I'd be devastated. If she said she went to a flower arranging class with someone else, I'd be devastated. I just don't think a kiss is a big deal. First of all, congrats on the weight loss journey, OP, from 300 pounds to 200. You're practically a superhero now, but it seems like your newfound hotness is causing a bit of a stir in the old marriage department. Who knew getting fit would come with its own set of relationship drama? Now, on to the main event, your wife's midnight rendezvous with Mr. Mystery Lips. She spills the beans about locking lips with a stranger, and you're just there like, it's just kissing and dancing. Classic nonchalant, my friend. But now you're stuck in a whirlwind of accusations, from being accused of being gay to not caring enough about her smooch fest. Sounds like the comments are right here. It seems like she was trying to get you to leave her by admitting that she cheated on you. Seriously, it sounds like your wife is projecting harder than a movie theater screen, from accusing you of infidelity to questioning your sexuality. She's pulling out all the stops, and now you're caught in the crossfire of her guilt trip. Express update post, 12 days later, a bit of an update to my previous post here. It's been nearly 2 weeks since I made the post. In the short update, we are getting divorced. I said in my last post that I told her I wanted us to go back to couples counseling and sex therapy. She said no to both, as we went before, and she felt bullied. She said at sex therapy that unless she initiates touching, not just sex, any touching like hugs or hand-holding, it will be against her will and will be forced pity affection from her. The sex therapist said that's very unreasonable, and that's why she felt bullied there. I tried to ask her a few questions too. Are you a lesbian? Or at least bi? Don't be stupid. Are you asexual? I'm not a teenager with a stupid label. What did he have that I don't? I don't know, nothing. I just wanted to do it. Why don't you ever want to do that with me? I don't know. What can I do to make you want to do that with me? Don't know. Do you want me to take the initiative and try it on with you more? No, I'll tell you when I want it. Don't guess. So she refused the therapy and gave me no straight answers. She has also said, I've gone back on my word about not letting the kiss split us up because now it is. I said, it's not the kiss, it's your behavior since then that has caused me to want a divorce. She said, as it's my decision to divorce and it's all my fault, then I should be the one to tell the kids, and she will have no part of it. That was hard. As soon as they were told, my wife left for her sisters, and in 3 days since, I haven't heard anything from her. I've tried speaking to her about the kids, as they miss her, but she reads my messages and ignores me. A lot of people asked about the friend and why they still talk after she tried it on with me. How I understand it is, my wife tried to get the friend group to cut the friend out, but they all pretty much refused, so my wife just chose to ignore her in group settings. On the night in question, the friend approached my wife and told her that if she didn't tell me, she would send me the video. So my wife didn't tell me because she felt guilty, but because she was forced. I've also spoken to a couple of other friends in the group and asked what's been going on. I'm not privy to. Apparently, my wife was texting her friend's boyfriend a couple of years ago. My wife has also been boasting about how she has me under her thumb and she gets away with giving me nothing, and I'm too scared to ask. The friend apparently saw me out shopping one day and decided I was now more effable and thought she'd try and exact some revenge on my wife. So she didn't really want me, I was just a pawn in this weird friend group, one of many internal beefs with each other, which I found out about in the last few days. Basically, they all seem to hate each other and mess with each other's partners. To be honest now, and I feel incredibly guilty about it, but when she left, my body and soul seemed to take a massive sigh of relief. It was like a black cloud that was dripping eggshell on the floor for me to constantly avoid, as gone. I feel terrible for feeling this way, but I feel like my 6-foot height now rather than a browbeaten 3-foot tall who was scared to even say anything for fear of being told I'm wrong or insulted or ridiculed. It's like the blinders have been taken off. I spent the day today baking with my kids, eating Easter eggs, and watching cartoons, and I haven't stopped smiling all day. I haven't winced or broke out in a sweat worrying if I'm about to be told off about being too noisy or watching the wrong thing on TV or there's a wrapper on the floor, etc. Thank you to everyone for your support on my last post. I appreciate you all. TLDR, we are divorcing now. Let's get some more relevant comments. First up, she sounds like a really horrible human being. Onwards and upwards, my friend. The OP replies, she's always been a bit cold, but the last few months, she's really stepped it up. Now there's a lot of things that have happened over the years that I'm seeing in a different light now. Someone else says, you sound like a good person who just wanted to save your marriage. Glad you now realize no woman is worth being treated like you've been treated. It's going to be a rough time for a while, but you're going to come out of it stronger and never date or marry cold, basic women again. The OP replies, it is rough, and I do feel like a failure for not being enough for her. But at the same time, I genuinely feel 2 feet taller and 100 pounds lighter since she left. It's a really weird feeling. I now know I'd rather live alone under a bridge than in a household like that again. Another person has this to say, you didn't fail her, you failed yourself by believing all this toxic, abusive crap she was feeding you, and that's understandable. Abuse creeps up on you until it's under your skin. It sounds like she had you convinced you could do nothing right. You deserve to be treated with respect, kindness, and honesty. These things cost absolutely nothing. They're baseline standards for human interaction, at least if you're dealing with decent people. The OP responds, that's exactly how it was. I was scared to even offer an opinion on something, and I still am now. My kids asked yesterday what film I wanted to watch, and I found myself scared to give an answer, thinking whatever I chose would be rejected and I'd be ridiculed. A community member says, you didn't go back on your word, friend. Her actions after the fact and lack thereof are the reason. The response from the OP is, yep, I'm still not bothered about the kiss. Another person chimes in, she doesn't want to take responsibility and is trying to manipulate you into the bad guy. You want to improve the situation and improve yourself with outside help. She wants the status quo to remain and is blaming the medical professionals for making her confront the way she treats you. Covert narcissists look it up, so you don't fall into that trap again, and they suck. But your sanity should come back to you, you've been living in her mind games for a long time. The OP's response, she is 100% making me the bad guy. I'm not on social media, but keep hearing about posts saying things like, you give your life to someone only for them to drop you when the halo slips a little bit. Whatever. Next piece of advice, dude, look up covert narcissistic. She caused all the problems, you tried to fix them, but it was never enough or correct for her. To which the OP responds, that's what I've been thinking about the last few days, that everything wrong in her life has been traced back to me, and it is my fault. From things like I don't earn enough money for her to live in the house she wants, to little things like she knocks her glass over, and it's my fault because I talked to her while she was watching something. Another community member says, don't ignore this behavior, it never goes well. Clean your name. People listen to gossip more than they'd like to admit. Keep all of these screenshots, it will help during the divorce. If she sends anything too personal or pushes the line too much, make sure you send her an email telling her you do not want your information to be released publicly. Then she can't play dumb. The OP replies, there was one where she implied I cheated. It was a picture about how cheating ruins relationships, and then her status with it was something like, so true, but I'm willing to forgive and forget. My friend commented and said, want to delete this, or shall I post the video? I really hate this sort of crap. It makes me cringe. Someone else has a quick response, if the kids are old enough, tell them she cheated. The OP responds, they are too young for that. I just told them that mommy and daddy have decided it's best we don't live together anymore, and it's something a lot of grown-ups do, but it's not the kids' faults, and they are still loved and cherished by both of us. Post the video proof. I've got that video in all the screenshots of her sexting her friends' boyfriends and all. There's some screenshot of a WhatsApp group chat where she's been posting pics for strangers to comment on, but it's blatantly her, as she has a tattoo under her boob, which is unique to her. There are also other videos and pics of nights out which her friend group has sent me. Someone else says, keep the records. UK courts probably won't care as much about the cheating as much as the abandonment. The OP says, yeah, agreed. The courts don't care. It's more for my own sake if she tries to twist it on me and say I left her for no reason and she did nothing wrong. I'm keeping a record of her not answering the phone to me or my eldest son, and also how long it's been since she left, and that she left of her own accord and has chosen not to come back. Don't take her back. I'll never take her back. I know a lot of people called me spineless in my last post, but I'm one of those people who, once I make a decision, I stick to it. Finally, the last commenter says, update us when she realizes the grass isn't greener. And the OP closes us out with, she's been out nearly every night since she went to her sister's. I genuinely hope she does find some nice green grass and be happy. Your wife's pulling out all the stops in the blame game, huh? From refusing therapy to blaming you for the split. But hey, at least now you've got a load off your shoulders. That sigh of relief you felt when she packed her bags, peace is priceless. And let's not forget the juicy details about her little friend group sexting scandals, secret tattoos, and more internal beef than a butcher shop. But amidst all the chaos, there's a silver lining, your newfound freedom. No more eggshell dodging, no more walking on thin ice. Just you, your kids, and a whole lot of Easter egg eating. Not only that, but you're taking care of yourself. You're a healthier individual and putting yourself first. You're miles ahead from where you once were. Keep going. What do you make of this? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and thank you for joining us today on our space. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. See you next time. Today in our space, a scarlet letter, a man exposes his wife's 24-year deception. The daughter I raised with her isn't even mine. I'm in my early 60s, and 4 days ago, I received a mail that plunged me into an existential crisis, not where I would want to be in the last lap of my life. I found a letter in my mailbox. Someone named Mr. X had sent his piano and a watch to my wife. These were not ordinary items but heirlooms passed down for many generations in his family. Of course, he mentioned these details in the mail. This stuff wasn't even for Mary, but for my daughter. Mr. X was not someone from our family or friends. I had heard the name before but couldn't place who this guy was. Mary reminded me he was her piano teacher 3 decades ago. I asked why he would send his family heirloom to my daughter or even to Mary. She had no answer, she just said I don't know. It was my daughter's pre-wedding dinner that evening. For a moment, I thought it was his wedding gift, but the question remains the same, why would her piano teacher, who hasn't been in touch for 24 years, send a gift to my daughter, and that too, his family heirloom? The question lingered in my mind, but I let it slide for the moment. It was a busy day, and all of us already had work before the festivities as the guests came in and the ceremony began. We slept very late that night. The next morning, I was still in bed with last night's hangover when someone relentlessly knocked on the door. It was the guy from the courier delivering the piano and the watch which that man talked about. I wish I was in my senses to inquire more about it or probably just refuse to receive it, but what I did was just sign and take it. I called Mary, but she wasn't home. She didn't even leave a note. My hangover was gone seeing that stuff. I freshened up and called Mary, but she didn't respond. My relentlessness grew, and I searched for the letter to read it again to draw any clues. I couldn't find the letter. I had kept the letter in my bedside drawer. I searched for it elsewhere and found it in a different drawer. Clearly, Mary had read it when I was asleep and kept it inside a different drawer. She came back in the afternoon. She royally ignored the huge piano kept in the living room. I asked her why her teacher sent his to our daughter. She gave me a look and said, how am I supposed to know this? It's been 24 years since I've met him. Maybe he sends something to all of his students. I nodded and asked her if she had read the letter we received yesterday. She said no and raced to the kitchen, evidently escaping the confrontation. Since then, she's not talking to me properly. I'm participating in that distance too. Ignoring her the way she lied to my face has gotten into my nerves. I don't know whether I should wait and let the situation cool off before having a confrontation or if I should find out the truth myself. I'm not sure what was the history between Mary and her piano teacher, but there was definitely something, even if it wasn't transient. Edited to add context, I've been married to Mary for 32 years. I looked upon her as the perfect wife and the perfect mother to our daughter. She's a homemaker, while I'm the house provider. Hard to relate for this generation, but this was the setup at our time. I got married quite early, doing odd jobs, wasn't making much, but I was resilient about having my own house before planning a child. After slaving my butt thin, I got a decent job, but it needed intense travel across different time zones. I used to be out for most of the days. It was a small company just spreading out its wings to the different nooks of the States. I joined as a sales rep and eventually climbed the ladder of sales head, business development, and expansion manager. Mary was understanding about my work commitments, but she used to be upset that I wasn't giving her enough time. She wanted to have children, but I just wasn't ready for such commitment at that time, both financially and emotionally, mainly financially. I wanted to give the best life to my children, and at that time, I neither had money nor time. I made her understand my concern, and she was on board with my plan. I asked her to seek a part-time job or pursue a hobby to get rid of her loneliness. She joined a piano class. She's a music enthusiast. I encouraged her to pursue it seriously, but she looked at it as more of a hobby. I was happy that she got something to divert her time. Mary stopped complaining about my absence. She was now busy with her practice in classes. I felt a relief back then. Little did I know that it would come back to bite me after 24 years. I had met her piano teacher twice. Once, I came early for my work trip. Mary wasn't home. It was the time for her piano lessons. I went to pick her up. She introduced me to her teacher and her friends there. The teacher looked the same age as me, probably slightly older. That's when I met him for the first time. The second meeting with him was when my daughter was born. He dropped by at our house. I was home at the time. He brought gifts for our daughter. None of the 2 times did I ever suspect anything fishy about the relationship. He seemed to be a sober gentleman. They both acted very normal. Mary left piano classes after conceiving her daughter. Her pregnancy was complicated, and the doctor had advised her to be on complete bed rest. On that ground, I took a transfer to a ground office job so that I could take care of Mary and my baby. After our daughter was born, I asked her to restart her piano hobby, but she said she was busy raising our kid. I offered to partake in the responsibility of the child, but she said she would manage it. I focused on earning money and providing a livelihood for my family. Eventually, I felt she had forgotten about her hobby and had moved on. She used to own a piano back then, but God knows what happened to that. It suddenly disappeared from the house. I remember I asked her about it, and she said she no longer enjoyed piano. That was it. This happened at the birth of my daughter. The next 24 years of our life have been so smooth. We felt like my daughter brought good tides into our life. That year, my company hit its biggest milestone. I got a good promotion with a hefty raise. I bought a small but cozy house with a front lawn where my daughter grew up making memories. Everything seemed so perfect, and then bam, that one letter shook the core of everything. Oh, everyone does love a mystery, don't they? Except when it might mean questioning the legitimacy of who your daughter actually belongs to. I smell a DNA test coming on. Don't be surprised if you find a few off-key revelations along the way. You see what I did there? Update 1. I know I've been avoiding speaking the inevitable truth. All the pieces joined together hinted that Mary had something more to do with her piano teacher beyond taking lessons. My house got cold after that day. Mary and I were avoiding each other's presence. It felt like my dread was coming true. A couple of times, I asked Mary if she wanted to talk about something, but she outrightly refused to address the elephant in the room. Honestly, I was also so pissed off that I didn't put any effort into fixing it. Instead of begging Mary for the truth, I decided to find it out myself. I went to the courier company which delivered those parcels in the mail. Not so easily, but I was able to get to the address of Mr. X. He was put up in a remote countryside farmhouse. It took me 4 hours' drive to that place. Spotting his farm was also a challenge in a low network zone. Thanks to his little fame in the area, a local garage owner guided me to his house. Mr. X had spent his last 10 to 15 years teaching music to the young boys and girls of that place. Reached his house to find he was dead. My rage subsided into numbness. I didn't know how to feel about it. There was a caretaker and another elderly man who introduced himself as Mr. X's cousin. He was the one who facilitated the shipment of the piano and watched to my house after Mr. X's demise. He told me he did whatever Mr. X's lawyer instructed him to do as per his will. Mr. X never married, he didn't have any children. He had no heir to inherit his belongings. His cousin clarified that Mr. X had willed his property to the charity, whatever little he had, but the most precious thing, his piano and his watch, he had given to my daughter. I asked him if he knew anything about Mary. He said no with a straight face. I tried probing him more, but he said we should respect the dead and get over it. I took the hint, thanked him, and left. When I came back home, Mary was lying lifelessly on the couch. The first time after that day, I had seen her face properly, she had grown pale. I sat down, my demeanor had changed. I asked her if she knew about Mr. X's demise. She looked at me with tearful eyes and said, "So you went there?" I nodded. She knew about it. After a long silence, I asked her, "Will you be confessing now?" She held my hand and broke down. Her confession went like this. "It was a one-time mistake, my loneliness tricked me into this. You were always staying out. I craved for you emotionally and physically. Our physical relationship had a dry spell for months. Even when you were in town, you were so busy at work that you were ignorant of my needs. I wanted to stop her midway and say that I wasn't enjoying it either. It was difficult for me too, leading a nomadic life, hopping from one city to another without adequate sleep and food. But I did all of it to give my family a good life, and I was successful in doing that. We have a decent life. Mary never had to think about the household budget, never had to compromise on the lifestyle she had led. My daughter went to the best school, got the college education of her choice, without any education loan. I funded all of this. All of this comes with a price. You can't just eat the meat and thrash away the bread. You got to bear the bad to be able to enjoy the good. But all this meant nothing, especially now when the ship had already sailed. She cried and said, "I'm sorry. I never intended to cheat on you, but it just happened in the heat of the moment. I feel very guilty about it. I wanted to confess and come clean when you returned, but I didn't want to hurt you with the truth. You were so happy with the news of the baby. I was scared that the truth would ruin everything."